Over the years, I've been to many auditions, and I've been given much advice about the process. Based on those experiences and the stories of others, I'm giving you the following advice. The first thing that I've taught in most of my classes is there really are no hard and fast rules regarding pretty much anything in the business. There are interpretations and considerations, there are success stories, and personal instances where someone will say, "Don't ever do this," while someone else will report, "I did that exact thing and was cast." There's a lot of wiggle room in any kind of advice that you hear about anything in this film industry. Like many things, the industry goes through fads as to what the current headshot and resume should look like. It's all quite arbitrary. And when you've been through rounds of those cycles, you might even say highly subjective. So I want you to bear in mind that advice is often free and subject to the whims and beliefs of the moment. With that said, I'm going to start with a personal audition story and offer a couple of interpretations. A number of years ago, I auditioned for a regional commercial involving a particular car brand. At the original audition, we were to mime driving a vehicle, and so we're all sitting in the room pretending we're holding on to a steering wheel. I dislike the pretense of anything not there. Shaping your hand into a phone, steering the air, taking off imaginary glasses seems rather contrived to me, but I've done it. When I got the call back, I thought, I'm going to do something different. So I went to a junkyard and I bought a steering wheel. I put the steering wheel in a bag so no one else saw that I had it. I pulled out the steering wheel and used that during the second audition. Now the clients loved it, and I made a joke about taking it off a car near the building. When the callback was over, I didn't put the steering wheel away. I walked out of the room and let all of the other actors see what I was holding. Some guys were smacking their heads saying, "Oh, a steering wheel," as if to say they should have thought of that. Someone even asked if they could borrow it. I laughed and said, "No, I was there to get the job." And I got it. Now I could say, and people have said these kinds of things, that I got the job because I had a steering wheel. Think about that for a moment. Can you imagine an actor being cast for a prop? The director, the producer, the clients are all going to look at a particular actor and say, not the best actor, but he did have a steering wheel. Certainly not. It is still going to be based on the performance and how they imagine the look of the character. The steering wheel may break the ice, but some might even think I was trying too hard. And I've heard people rejected because they wanted a job too much. In fact, I know a very successful male performer, you would recognize his name, who believed he got more work once he communicated that he didn't care if he was cast or not. He felt they wanted him more when he acted like it didn't matter to him. Once there's been success with something, people will attribute the choice to their success and advise others to follow that example. So to be perfectly clear, I'm not attributing my casting to a steering wheel or any other prop. More often than not, I've seen props such as glasses not normally worn mess up an audition. Depend on your performance choices to carry the day. With that said, for any of the 10 tips that I'm giving you here, you will always find someone suggesting the exact opposite. And that's because anecdotal evidence can prove anything. Now, I'm basing my tips on decades of experience on both sides of the camera. You obviously can and should be the judge. I believe some of these are even more practical now given the current situation and the rise of online auditioning and production. Number 1, don't procrastinate. Unless you are given a specific turnaround date and time, get to work immediately on the audition. Once you receive the audition sides, set a goal to have them submitted by the next day. Why? Because every day that you delay allows someone else to get the job before you. That's happened on my current project. While you may be thinking you're taking your time to do it well, someone else is doing it well faster. Regardless of your explanation, that delay can be interpreted as slow to respond and lacking enthusiasm for the project. Some people will write, "I took extra time on this because I wanted to make sure that it was right." I'm hoping everyone wants to make sure that it's right, but the fact that you took extra time may mean that you're not equipped to do things quickly, because direction on set is given in the moment. One must make the change immediately, so taking extra time isn't necessarily a positive statement. I need actors who can do it right with the clock running. Number 2, don't prioritize memorization over characterization. I don't expect you to memorize the scene. In fact, if I did, I would have even higher expectations. I do expect the scene, though, to be good. The problem here, and this is for people who get the sides ahead of time, I can see them trying to remember the lines. And when that happens, they're not really into the character. I've only had one experience where the memorization was actually relevant in a strange way. A production company hired me, stating it was the first time they'd ever used a SAG actor. They didn't have the script ready until the morning of the shoot. They had sent me some of it the night before, but they were still changing it on set. When I arrived on location, they said, "This is our first time using a SAG actor because we knew the script was going to be late. We wanted to make sure we had someone who could memorize it quickly." I thought to myself, so I'm representing all SAG actors now, but where does it say in the bylaws that all SAG actors are going to be able to memorize quickly? I have to confess that memorization is a little bit of work for me, so the pressure was on. It takes a lot of time to get to the point where it no longer sounds like memorization. For the audition, the scene is more important than the memorization. Stay on the script and make it a good scene. That's the test. Number 3, don't apologize. Actors frequently think they can do it better with another chance. In practice, many times, it's not better, it's just different. And then the actor apologizes. Well, we may have thought the audition was fine until you apologize, because now we're thinking, maybe you weren't confident in the choices you made. Maybe you wouldn't be able to duplicate those choices, or you didn't really make a good choice. This is evident too frequently when we ask an actor to do the scene again the exact same way. Everybody believes they can do it better with another opportunity. I've often thought the best audition is the one in the car on the way home. I think to myself, why didn't I do that when I was in there? It's so obvious on the way out. Regardless what you think, don't undermine your chances by apologizing. Number 4, repeatability. Make sure you can repeat your performance. Actors need consistency to facilitate editing. Once the performance is established, don't experiment. I had a difficult time editing once when an actor couldn't do a scene the same way twice. We've agreed on a performance. Do that again. In an audition, make sure you've made specific choices that you can repeat. If you want to try something different, you can ask. Otherwise, demonstrate consistency in your choices. Number 5, follow directions in the audition notice. If you are careless from the start, and I mean you haven't read the email or audition notice correctly to understand specifically what you were supposed to do, you'll likely be careless during the shoot. You have to slow down and focus. Focusing is a major problem today for everyone in all walks of life. We are training our brain to constantly be distracted. We are not multitaskers. That's not the way our brains consciously work. We are task switchers, and that means you've got to learn to focus. Read everything twice before you submit, and double check that you have submitted everything requested. Don't offer substitutions, explanations, or excuses. This is the first test of the audition. Can you do what's required without excuse or apologies? Number 6, listen to and take direction. If you can't affect the change in the audition, it will be difficult to believe that you'd be able to do it expediently on set. While I'm checking to see if people can repeat a performance, I'm also interested in learning if they can alter it with direction. I have on occasion given actors a change only to see them do it the same way again. Sometimes they actually thought they made the change. Other times they've disagreed with the direction and did it their way again. The thing you have to know here is the direction may not be what we're going to go with. I'm just checking to see if you can take direction. Demonstrate that ability. Number 7, don't mention how many times you rehearsed. If it's mediocre and you've worked at it hundreds of times, and I've heard people say that, we might think, well, that's as good as it's going to get. Otherwise, we might have had you try it again with a different direction. But if it's taking you hundreds of times to get to that place, that's not a good thing. Number 8, don't worry about nailing it. You didn't nail anything. The scene is incomplete until the director announces that we're moving on. There are changes that can happen. There are reactions that can impact another actor or your character that may not have happened with the person that you're reading with during the casting session. I think the idea of nailing it is the wrong approach to acting because we're creating something that's going to be impacted by a number of other aspects of filmmaking. Number 9, forget about backstory. Focus on the forward story and why your character is in the scene. What information does your character provide the audience? Does your character support another character? What does your character do to move the scene or story forward? Those are the important considerations. Now, I realize actors try to flesh out the character as much as possible, but sometimes that negatively impacts the story. And by that I mean the character actually changes and no longer is the storytelling tool necessary for the audience. Even though the character is still saying the scripted words, the characterization has changed enough to confound its purpose in the story. Stay in the now and understand your purpose. Number 10, don't prejudge your suitability for a role. I've heard actors say a particular role isn't suitable for them, so they weren't going to audition for the part. They thought they were in the mix simply to meet the auditioning quota established by the producer. And quite honestly, there have been times when I've thought, I'm not getting that role. I wouldn't even cast myself as that character. But I still auditioned. 4 of my best roles have come when I auditioned for one role and didn't get it. The director thought, not that, but I do want him in this project, and subsequently cast me in another role. Don't turn down auditions. You never know what connections you are missing for future work. And I'll say that about the project I'm working on now. You never know what connections you are missing for future work. So these are 10 suggestions that I'm making to help create a mindset about the audition process. Will some disagree? Absolutely. Which is why I've given you my reasons for them. I've also quoted the following many times in many different situations. William Goldman wrote in his book, Adventures in the Screen Trade, that nobody knows anything. So take everything, including this, with a grain of salt. But whatever you decide, make sure that you are employing repeatable choices and responding quickly to the audition. I wish you all the best of luck, and of course, break a leg.